All right, folks, check this out. We know that Donald Trump has been both mentally and physically declining rapidly. We've watched it basically every single day in his second term. He'll ramble incoherently, he'll fall asleep in the Oval Office. It's all been very bad. But it just got even worse for Donald Trump because the New York Times just published this long analysis of Donald Trump's second term and his health. And they're finding that he's sleeping a lot more, even, of course, taking naps in the middle of the day in meetings that are public. He's starting his days later. He's ending his days earlier. It's just gotten really bad and really noticeable. So I want to show you this pretty significant expose on Donald Trump. It's titled Shorter Days, Signs of Fatigue. Trump Faces Realities of Aging in Office. I'm glad that the mainstream media outlets are covering Donald Trump's decline. Before we get into any of this, make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about this story. Let me know what you think about Donald Trump's obvious decline. Without further ado, let's dive in. First and foremost, let's just take a quick summary of what we've seen so far from Donald Trump in office regarding his health. This video was just from the other day at the White House, and just watch how Donald Trump is walking. He's stumbling all over the place. He has consistently been unable to walk in a straight line. And watch here, he just can't do it. He's going back and forth, he's swaying, he's stumbling. You know, this is not indicative of somebody that's healthy. And that's just one example. I mean, remember when he disappeared randomly over the summer for a week straight, had no public events, and then suddenly came out with a "never felt better in my life" Truth Social statement. That's how he announced his return to the world. It was a very strange saga, and we never got an explanation from the White House as to why Donald Trump disappeared. Of course, we've seen his ankles just be as large as tree trunks. I mean, very, very concerning stuff. He also had an MRI, has never produced the results of the MRI. He said, "I have no idea what they analyzed, but whatever they analyzed it well," which doesn't answer the question. And of course, it's very unusual for somebody to have an MRI. And then, of course, we've seen Donald Trump's bruising on his hands, just covering his hands in makeup every single time he appears in public. And that brings us to, of course, this New York Times article with this headline really kind of laying it all out there. So let's get into it. Later starts, fewer events. The New York Times says, for years, concerns and questions about Trump's health have been met with obfuscation or minimal explanation from the people around him. Trump's physicians have not taken questions from reporters in years, including when he was seriously ill with COVID in 2020. There were no medical briefings held after an assassination attempt against him in Pennsylvania. Many of the facts that concern critics about Trump's physical health during his first term are present now. And just to point out, because Republicans always talk about Joe Biden's doctors often talk to reporters. They actually put out far more reports than Donald Trump's doctors are. And then the Republicans try to claim that Biden's unhealthy, but Trump, the guy who has had MRIs, cognitive exams, things like that, there's no requirement from them. He does not get regular exercise, of course, in part because he has had a long-held theory that people are born with a finite amount of energy, and that vigorous activity can deplete that reserve like a battery. He enjoys red meat and is known to eat McDonald's by the sackful. Of course, this idea of fitness is completely false. According to his physician, he's lost weight. In 2020, he was 244 pounds. This year, he's 224 pounds. And maybe that means that Donald Trump is on Ozempic because he frequently muses about the effectiveness of weight loss drugs. He refers to them as the fat drug and talks about people he knows who have taken the medications, but his physician has not said if he takes it himself, which is pretty interesting. But regardless, and according to a Times analysis, and this is where it gets really bad for Donald Trump, of the official presidential schedules in the database maintained by Roll Call, Trump's first official event starts later in the day. In 2017, the first year of his term, Donald Trump's scheduled events started at 10:31 a.m. on average. By contrast, Trump in his second term has started scheduled events in the afternoon on average at 12:08 p.m. His events also end on average at around the same time as they did during the first year of his first term, shortly after 5 p.m. The number of Mr. Trump's total official appearances has decreased by 39%, a 39% decrease from his first term. In 2017, Trump held 1,688 official events between January 20th and November 25th of that year, so comparing the same time frame. For that same time period this year, Trump has appeared in 1,029 official events. And in some of these events, of course, he didn't take any questions or, he was falling asleep. Donald Trump still regularly comes down to the Oval Office after 11 a.m. After 11 a.m. So while Americans are out there starting their workday at, a normal time, 8 or 9 or whatever it is in the morning, Donald Trump just trounces down to the White House at 11 a.m. and then he starts his day. I mean, absolutely insane. And of course, Trump has rambled in his speeches during his 2024 campaign and in his second term. The meandering has often been noticeable. He can veer off script to share stories that are sometimes riddled with untruths, such as his false claim that his uncle, John Trump, had taught the domestic terrorist Ted Kaczynski at MIT, which is completely false. It has no ounce of truth in it, yet Donald Trump somehow made that claim. Here's another one, no rule book for health reports. Now, of course, Donald Trump is not obligated to put out his health report just like any other American. He can or can't, it's kind of up to him. But Donald Trump's physician has released, and this is according to Caroline Leavitt, released 2 detailed reports following both of his physical examinations as part of his ongoing health maintenance plan, which is just not true. Both of the reports have not been very detailed, but Jeffrey Coleman, who served as a White House physician from 2000 to 2013, so he knows the ins and outs, said that Mr. Trump's schedule contrasts with those held by George W. Bush, who was 54 when he took office, and Obama, who was 47. Both built exercise into their schedules, and Bush was in the office by 10:45 every day. Obama would arrive by 10 a.m., though his nights, as is famously known, would go on much later, until 7 p.m. or even 10 p.m. in his personal study. That's a reference to President Obama's book where he wrote about that, actually. They show him as effective, set of Trump's aides, but every time he's in the Oval Office, he's not looking too effective. So anyway, Coleman said it's commendable that Trump at his age still boards Air Force One using a long flight of stairs, but you don't know what he does as soon as he walks past that door. There's one thing that Trump is also doing more in his second term, which is concerning, and that's talking about the afterlife. He's brought up heaven and the question of whether he would get in half a dozen times since taking office for the second time. Quote, there's been some kind of a report card up there someplace, Trump said during an interview with Fox in August, adding it's sort of a beautiful thing. While he was ruminating, his trademark competitiveness kicked in and he turned back to Joe Biden, attacking him. And I also want to show you just something that the New York Times included in this article, if I can find it. And this is Donald Trump during an Oval Office meeting recently. We talked about it on the show, where he could not keep his eyes open. He was falling asleep, and you can see it right here. Look at him. He's struggling. I mean, this is the president of the United States, the guy who he and his team claim is in full fitness. He can essentially run a marathon and be perfectly fine. But, the story tells, the videos, the articles, the appearances tell a different story. You can see that. And I think the most stunning part of this article, if I can find it again, was the times that Donald Trump started. The fact that he's had later starts on average, his events are shorter, and a 39% decrease, basically a 40% decrease in public appearances. That's not good, folks. That's not good. So look, I will leave the video there. I just had to talk about this pretty interesting New York Times article where they did this analysis on his public events, and it's showing that, he's aging. And it's not just aging, it's serious decline. So look, I will leave the video there. Thank you so very much for watching. It means the world. Make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment. Let me know what you think about Donald Trump's decline. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm always excited to hear from you folks. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.